Let me show you how to tell when your starter is active so you can get better, more consistent bread every time you bake. If you're a beginner sourdough baker or you just want to make sure your sourdough starter is still healthy, here's a foolproof trick that you can use. All you need is a glass of water and some of your starter that has recently been fed and you suspect is active. All you need to do is spoon some of the starter right into the water. Not only should it have a bubbly, foamy feel, but it should float immediately. You can see here there's not even a second where it sank to the bottom. It's not floating around in the middle. When I push it, it doesn't sink. An active sourdough starter is filled with gas. The yeast produce this after they eat the flour and water that we feed it. Now, after you've been baking a while, you won't need to use this method. You'll be able to tell just by looking at your sourdough starter. I'm going to pour this sourdough starter out so you can see how it behaves when it's really active. Not only does it look really cool, I literally never get tired of playing with sourdough starter, but you can see all the activity, all the bubbles, everything going on inside the jar even after I've poured it out. It's not mandatory, but definitely helpful to have a nice, clean, and clear jar so you can thoroughly see what's going on inside your starter. If you're curious about any of the products I use, I will link them below. When a sourdough starter is inactive or in its sleepy stage, it does not behave like this at all. It doesn't have movement or the bubbles that this sourdough starter you see here has. If it's super hungry and formed a layer of hooch, even worse, needs to be fed and you shouldn't bake with it yet. Let me show you that in action. We're gonna do the same test, but this time we're gonna use a really hungry, probably 2-month-old discard that's been sitting in my fridge. You can already see the difference. It's definitely not moving or behaving anything like the active starter. This was really hard to open, guys. You're only witnessing part of the struggle. When you're a beginner sourdough baker, it can be really helpful to see all the different stages of your sourdough starter. Because the starter is established, after a good feed, she'll be just fine. But let's look at the differences here. It's really thick, shiny, super heavy, and you'll see what happens here while I drop it into the water. Again, you could totally use this for discard recipes, but it's not going to be ideal to raise your sourdough bread. Okay, so it sank to the bottom right away. Like any good science experiment, let's go ahead and test the active one again. Now, to avoid an explosion like this one, which I did on purpose to show you what not to do, have an appropriately sized jar for your starter, don't keep too much, and make sure the lid is not so tightly covered that she breaks your jar. Right, here it is again, guys. She floats, super active, super bubbly, big blob just floating around in the water. Now, you can do this the first few times you bake, and after that, you'll see all that activity in your jar, and you'll know. You'll never have to take it to this point. If you want the most easy, consistent, and foolproof sourdough bread, keep watching. Okay, you've mastered my beginner's recipe. You're getting consistent loaves, and now you want to know how to get that gray ear and the perfect, bubbly, crunchy crust. Don't use too much flour when you're shaping. And with the scoring, you're going to want to go at a 45-degree angle, nice and deep right on the side of the bread. This is going to give you that beautiful ear you're looking for, and the lack of flour before you score is going to help ensure that bubbly crust. Yes, your designs will peek through if you use the flour, but I'd rather have that crunchy, bubbly crust any day. Now, of course, this is personal preference, but that's how you're going to achieve that crust. Now, let's zoom in here and take a look inside this loaf. She's got beautiful fermentation, nice, even, and open bubbles throughout. Using the same recipe, having a good constant and control like an active sourdough starter and checking the float test can ensure that you get these results. Of course, things like shaping and surface tension matter, but I cover all of that in my beginner's recipe. Beautiful ears, consistent loaves, delicious and sellable sourdough bread with no burnt bottoms ever. If you enjoy this video, we just ask that you leave a comment, a like, share it with a friend or a family member who loves bread. It really helps our little channel grow. Check the description box and I'll see you in the next one.